Right into it, man. Let's do it.
All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chat with Will Grant webinar series. Will, good to see you, my friend.
Hey, man, I'm excited to be here. I missed last week.
Well, I apologize for that, man. I was hoping we could go every Saturday, but when the missus says, you know what, today is mine, you can't have Will today, I got to go with it.
Hey, things happen, man. It's the ability to adapt and overcome is what makes us great, right?
Absolutely. It's great seeing everybody come in the attendee room. Welcome,
What's
everybody.
up?
Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us on a Saturday. I'm Edwin Adams, the leadership alchemist from disruptcomfort.com. I'm not why you came to this show. That's this guy on the other side of the screen, Will Grant. Good to see you, brother.
Hey, I'm good to see you guys, and so grateful and thankful for everyone to just come in and joining in and jumping in on this interaction, man. I think it's so cool that we're really able to join on this platform and be able to connect with people all over the world and share our insights and share our thoughts so we can all learn from each other and come up.
Well, that's what's so incredible. I know with the global issues that we have going on now, the abundance that I see around that is everyone's awareness is now enhanced on just how easy it is to connect with people instantaneously all over the world through the beautiful use of technology like this. So we're no longer really alone or isolated. We have immediate access to amazing influencers like you.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I always try to take the positive from the negative. And I think one positive from this whole epidemic, I guess you could say, is it showing us how we all are really connected, in the good ways and in the bad ways. And, I think it's, like I said, it's really cool that we are being shown that we're so connected, and there's no other time that really shows us that, hey, look, we're in this together. Like if some people are getting sick or if some people are doing good, it plays throughout the whole world, So, the better we can do for ourselves and the better we can do for just the closest people to us, the better we could do as a planet and a species altogether.
Yeah. So, Will, we've been on this amazing journey of almost body, mind, and spirit nirvana. I mean, we've been spending a lot of time on breath, and I'll tell you, over the several weeks that we've been doing this, I have recognized my lack of breathing so much and find myself pausing more during the day to go, just take a breath. My morning starts differently, my day is differently, and my days end differently because of what you've been teaching. And we're not leaving breath, but we are, because we need to talk about movement some, because that's another problem we're all running into is movement issues. So I'm excited about today. I've looked at your list today. We've got a lot to cover, dude.
Yeah. And breath is just another form of movement. The better that we can breathe, the better that we can move. And the better that we're moving, the better that we're going to be breathing, So, it's all almost a practice of mindfulness, and that comes to breathing as well. And that's really what movement is. So many of us are just so unaware and so unmindful of our breath, in the same way that we're so unmindful of our movement. And when we're unmindful of our movement and when we're unmindful of our breath, it just makes the world kind of push us depending on, the circumstances of the world, instead of what we really want to do and what we really want to accomplish and what we really want to get out of this journey. And the more that we can take awareness with our breath and movement, the more that we're able to take awareness within ourselves and to really, accomplish and reach our potential.
Love it. So thank you for everybody who is here. I see some returning members, so thank you guys for coming back. We still have a few people trickling in. So, Will, let's move forward, but I want to encourage the people who are on the call live with us right now. You've got a Q&A opportunity at the bottom of your screen. If you want to ask Will a question, I'm going to be monitoring that, Will, and I'm going to try to get the context of the question right at the time where you said it. But we, as questions go, questions can come from anywhere. So we're just going to go all over the place to address.
Let the questions come, because that's the whole point of this, is to be able to interact. It's about being able to adjust and to pivot. So, if we're having questions, come with the questions, because we want to serve, the problems that people are having. So, don't be afraid to ask a question, even if it may not be exactly what we're talking about in that perfect moment. let's work together and, figure out how we can all learn from each other and reach a new level of ourselves.
Yeah, I'll find a way to get the question in. You just send in the questions in the Q&A feature,
Yeah.
preferably not the chat area. I'm going to be watching Q&A, and you know what, guys? You stick around to the very end, there's even going to be a surprise, right, Will?
Yeah, yeah. If you guys stick to the end, we're actually going to give a chance to give away my free course, my staple course, the Happy, Healthy, Strong, of where I put all my best routines, workouts, and really everything into that course. And we're going to be giving a chance to give it away. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's such an added value that
Yeah.
people have no idea what they're going to get in that. I've seen the course, I've experienced the course. I know some of you I'm looking at on the list have been in that course. It's an amazing program, and Will's highest value contribution to movement and breathing and
Yeah.
mindset, all wrapped up in a beautiful little package that has so much value. So that's exciting to stick around for. We're going to be on this webinar until tomorrow at 6 a.m. So you have to stay in order to be
Oh, man.
I'm just kidding.
No, I actually have plans this evening to go out to the beach and just do a couple rounds of breathing and jump in that ocean. I'm in some need of some good salt therapy,
Well, that's the best place to go do it.
Yeah.
So Will, before you go running, I know that there are probably some points about posture that we need to start with, because posture is the number one sign we got issues with movement, and we could hurt ourselves if we're not aware of that. So let's just start movement, talking about some basics of posture.
Yeah, well, posture is going to be everything, like the way that you hold and stable your body throughout the day is quite literally going to determine how you're going to feel throughout the day, and posture is everything. Posture is the most important. And if you're having pains in your body, 99 out of 100 times it has to do with some form of postural related issues. So just to be mindful of posture, and we have 6 posture checkpoints today that we're going to be going over to really just help you be mindful and something to think about to make sure your posture is always on point, starting from the bottom all the way to starting from the bottom all the way to the top. And that's what's going to keep us mindful. And our body works as a chain, so if you're lacking, the part in your posture when it comes to your head, it can correlate to back problems. It can correlate to knee problems. If your head is too far forward throughout the day from sitting on the computer, from driving, from texting, that's going to correlate to back problems. That's going to correlate to knee problems, to even feet issues. Depending on your genetics and your lifestyle is depending on what issue you get. But the stem cause of it usually always goes back to posture. So just to, and I could kind of set up the computer so you can see me demonstrate these as well. But so the first posture checkpoint, let's start at the top. Let's start at the head, which I already kind of mentioned, is most of us have our heads forward. Our heads are forward because of the texting, because of the driving before on the computer. But what we want to do and constantly think about is having a string tied to the top of our head that's going to bring our head and our neck nice and tall and our chin back. We want to be leading our days with our heart, not our chin, right? Because when we lead, because our head is pretty heavy. If our head is forward, that's putting all of that weight on our lower back, and it's putting all that weight right on our knees, and it's making our shoulders go forward, and that's what's causing that out of alignment, that disalignment that causes those pain. So just to put our heads tall and our chin back will just help the alignment and that weight distribution throughout everything.
So Will, is it as easy as standing sideways in front of a mirror? It's hard to see if your head is straight or not. How can you visualize that? Or what would a chiropractor or a mobility specialist do?
2 steps to visualize that. One is, like I said, that string. Just imagine having a string, bringing yourself up and tall and centered. And next is just taking that chin and pushing it behind your chest. I like to think of, like just the cue that I use is I like to lead my day from my heart, not my head and not my chin and not my mouth, but I'm leading my day with my heart. So just trying to keep my chin and my nose behind my chest will keep my head aligned and my head straight. So my bones and my body is stacked. so many of us have these out of alignment, so our body is not stacked, and that's what's causing everything to be chipping away and degrading. And those million tiny bad movements is what causes the pain. Pain is just a signal for our bodies to, that's our bodies telling us something. Hey, something needs to be changed. Something needs attention, and so many of us just don't understand the language of our body. So we're only getting to the point when our body's screaming at us and we don't know what it's saying. We just know that something's wrong. And the easiest way to remember that is keeping that head tall, chin tucked back, and keeping our bones stacked so everything is nice and aligned. And that's just the first checkpoint. And I highly recommend, if you guys are listening to this and if you guys are taking notes, to take notes of these 6 checkpoints, because just being able to write them down helps your brain remember them a little bit more. So the first one is the head and neck, right? So head nice and tall, chin tucked back. And the next one is actually your shoulder blades. In the same way your head is tendency to too far forward, our shoulder blades tend to be rolled forward, right? And that's from the same thing, the texting, the sitting, the driving. Our shoulder blades are rolled forward. And you have to think about every single time that we stress. It doesn't matter what type of stress it is. It's from our family, our kids, our work. Our shoulders get a little bit tight. And our neck tightens up. That brings our shoulders up. So we have to be mindful, and we could use our breath to do this, is a nice good inhale, and then on our exhale, just using how to relax our shoulders. So our shoulders, we want to be down and actually scooped forward like this, okay? So scoop, like we're actually trying to show the people in front of us our armpits, okay? So, and a good little practice is by taking here, I might need to bring this back a little bit so you can see more
demonstrate that. Well, I think that's hard for people to see scapular movement and what a scoop is.
Here, and I can, not to get naked in front of you guys, but here. So if you reach out and you see, if you roll your shoulders forward, that's bad posture, right? And then by rolling your shoulders back and bringing those shoulders down, almost showing the front of your armpits, that movement right there. And we could do 10 reps just like that to feel that range of motion. Because the beautiful thing about our bodies is if we put our bodies through a full range of motion, it does a much better job at sitting in the correct place throughout the day. So here, I can turn around so you guys can get a better see of kind of like the back muscles engaging, but instead of having it rolled forward like this, we want to reach out and scoop those shoulders down and back while we're pushing our shoulders down and we're scooping them back. And this takes practice. This is not something that we're going to get right away. That's not something that we're going to get immediately. It actually takes practice to being able to press those shoulders down and to roll those in those armpits forward. And that is the same thing, because look, this is from our chest being too tight. And when our chest is too tight, it's rolled forward. It's giving us that shoulder impingement, and our backs are not engaging. And then after a while, then we're going to have a little shoulder pain or a little elbow, tennis elbow, or maybe some numbness in our hands or in our wrist, or that tingling feeling is bad posture that's killing our blood flow. Because if we're able to bring that down, it's like opening up those dams so those rivers of blood flow can go all the way through, and our heart can pump that proper blood flow all the way to our hands, as opposed to if it's getting pinched off in this position. And that affects our breathing, that affects our mental performance, our mental clarity, and even, like how well we're going to be feeling throughout the day. So that's 2.
Let me interrupt you there. I know we're only 2, but we're getting some questions. Our friend Richard is asking about back pains he got from an injury a long time ago. So when it comes to awareness of movement, I know we're just starting with the head and shoulders, but they're attached to the lower back. If you have a pre-existing condition, how do you close the gap between injury and optimal living? Because the injury may not go away, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what they want you to believe. Yeah, but the injuries just fast forward the process, right? Because if you don't have any injuries, most of us, when we get 40, 50, 60 years old, we start to get those back pains and we start to get those knee pains, but injuries just hurry up that process. And I'm not sure how the injury happened. It could have been a car accident, a bike accident, falling and tripping, something like that. That's what pushes our body out of alignment. And our goal is to be slowly getting our body back in alignment every single day. Because say if we fall and we hit on our shoulder, those muscles around our shoulder all tense up to tighten to protect ourselves, right? And if we don't do that work to loosen up that body and to bring our body back to balance, it starts knocking the whole chain out of alignment, and the issue gets worse and worse and worse. So if it was a car accident or whatever type of issue that caused that back problem, the goal is to get our body back in alignment. And when we put our body back in alignment, our body will heal. But if our body is out of line and our posture is bad, it's constantly chipping quicker than our body can heal, because our body's always working on healing.
The key is you either need to get help. If you still have chronic pain, something's still chronically wrong, get some help, work a program, etc. Right?
Yeah, 100%. And if you really do have some serious pains, and I'm saying this, I don't get paid a penny from this. I have no monetary reason for saying this, but if you really do have some serious pains and back pains that you feel like you can't help, that Move You program, that I actually did myself when I was in my worst place, when the doctors weren't sure if I was ever going to walk again without pain. I had so much pains in my knees, my back, my ankles, and where I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to move my body into my 30s. I went to the Move University, which you can do all online. And it's one of the best things that you could do if you're really, really struggling with back pain and nothing else seems to work. I highly recommend that.
So look, we mentioned them enough. Do you think we could ever get them on the show maybe to do?
Dude, that would be, I would love that. I really do think that could, because I've built a relationship with them.
That's right.
Through my testimony, really, because I've had such an awesome testimony from their course, and I've explained to them and I've showed them look, I was a 25-year-old professional athlete that my career was about to end because I couldn't even sleep at night. I was struggling with so much pain. I couldn't get through any of my days or any of my sessions, without my back or my knee or my shoulder hurting. And this course, that Move University, taught me how to move and use my body, and taught me how all of these pains were not because of some diagnosis that I was innately going to have throughout my life, but because I was moving and using my body improperly.
And medicine's not going to cover that up. You can't just medicate it away.
Well, that's just going to cover the symptoms. But, that problem is going to get worse and worse and worse unless you find the root cause of it, which always comes down to postural imbalances. Always. It comes down to, how you're improperly moving and using your body. And then you got to take responsibility of the way you're moving and the way you're feeling. And when we can do that is when we could start to feel better.
Okay, that's fair. We got a quick question from, so Richard, I hope that helps. There's a path forward for you, and it is going to involve some coaching and some therapy and some programming and some work in order to overcome. So Richard, thanks for your question, and keep us posted on your progress. Our friend Roy is saying he just finished a 2-hour bike ride, always have some neck pain from a cyclist position. Will, you're a bike rider, probably a different position from a road bike, but any tips on those kind of issues when you just got to be in the position?
Yeah. I mean, same thing, because I've done a lot of road bike work too. And it's the same thing, posture. So when you're on that road bike, it's that tendency to have those shoulders forward. You're dipped down. Look, I'll show you from the side. See how my shoulders are forward? I'm dipped down and I'm riding like this. You want to be mindful to keep that back straight and bring those shoulders down and that neck tall.
So it's still a scoop and a string.
Yeah. Bring that string and bring that scoop, bring that chest out. And that's going to help so much with just getting that better blood flow. So during those long rides because that causes a little bit of an imbalance. And then a good 30-minute stretching session afterwards to really press on those muscles that are getting tight and do the opposite movement. So if you're here for a long time, you got to do some movements to open it up. So if that's some bridges, my favorite is called a reverse plank bridge, which I actually have a whole video on YouTube about. Just something that's going to engage your glutes, engage your back muscle to open that body up. Because all the time that we spend here, we must do that to balance itself, to open it back up.
So what I hear you saying is there might be some pre-work and some post-work after the ride in order to become, or to get back in balance.
Yeah, well, I mean, you always want to warm up, but you know, the two main things is one, focus on posture, and that's mindfulness. Being mindful of making sure those rivers are open to get that blood flow. And instead of here, those shoulders are down and scooped, the chin's nice and tall and back, and just that posture. And then afterwards, stretching the tight muscles while engaging, you know, the muscles that were turned off.
And the pain is a symptom that something's not aligned during the ride and
Yep.
can improve. You're just going to try a different posture on the bike next time.
I mean, if you're doing like, and this is not something you want to do every day, you know, like in the regular training, if you're feeling that pain, yes, that means that something's off. But if you're doing something crazy, like an ultra marathon where you're riding for 9 hours a day, there's almost no way to get out of that pain. You just have to jump in that pain and learn from it. And then the next day, focus on that recovery.
Sure, fair enough. We've got some other questions, but they're feet related. I'm going to wait to the end
Okay.
to connect with that. Will core engaged and aligned? Number 3.
Yes. So the next one is same thing, and the 3 actually goes into the 4. Is you want to be making sure that core is engaged, because this is like the infrastructure of your whole building. If this isn't tight, if this is collapsed, everything's falling forward, and that's how you get the bulge discs. That's how you get the herniated discs, is from that core not being engaged, which goes into the pelvic tilts as well. So just by keeping it here and learning how to breathe helps too, by learning how to breathe while keeping that core engaged, which is also another practice. And then going right into the 4th one is being pelvic neutral. That goes into the core, and I can show you guys this. So many of us here, and I'm going to back this up a little bit so you can see me a little bit better. Okay? So many of us are either here, anterior tilt, or that posterior tilt like this. Okay? So we want to find that pelvis neutral, and remember, it's about keeping it all stacked, right? So if this is forward, then everything up top is going to be back, and then it's going to be all that pain here. And in the same way as it's here, if it's too much here, it's going to cause all that pain in here. So by finding that pelvis neutral and finding it right in the middle where our core is engaged and our pelvis is neutral, and that brings me to the next one, those glutes are engaged, right? And those all go together, right? By having this stacked instead of out of a line in all these crazy positions. So to have them stacked where your chin is tall, your shoulders are back, your core is engaged, your glutes engaged, and you're in that pelvis neutral. And that's going to go into just stacking those bones. Stacking the bones are the most important thing to make sure that, because it's like anything. Imagine if your car was out of a little bit of alignment. Then all of a sudden you're going to have issues that are moving all over the car just because one small thing is out of alignment. And that's what it comes to really important. And we're going to go over these 6 posture checkpoints, and later I'm going to show you guys a few exercises to kind of pinpoint each one of these to make sure that you're knowing how to do these correctly, right?
Oh, perfect. I think that'll be helpful.
So we got the head nice and tall. We got the shoulders down and scooped. Do we have the core engaged? We have the pelvis neutral. We have the glutes engaged. And one thing cool about our glutes engaged is I'll show you guys something. Okay. So when our glutes are not engaged, our knees tend to cave inward like this. And that brings out that whole chain out of a line. That's what, if you look at your feet right now, right? And if these are your toes, if you have your big foot crowding the other toes, that means that you have this issue, right? So you can look at your feet, and if your big toe is crowding the other ones, that means your knees are slightly going in, and that's just from your glute not being engaged. When you engage your glutes, that brings your knees outward, okay? And that's so important to having your knees outward during those movements. So we have the head, we got the shoulders, we have the core, we have the pelvis, we have the glutes, which brings our knees, and then it comes to the feet. We want to be able to have movement in our feet in the same way we have movement inside our hands. So we want to be able to grip the ground with our feet, and we want nice, strong feet. And so many of us have extremely weak feet because we wear shoes with massive soles all day. And when you have shoes that take care of the impact, that means that your feet are just turned off because the body has that tendency to save the energy to put it towards other places. So when we're wearing shoes all day, our feet just turn off. Our ligaments turn off that are supposed to be used as our suspension. So, that's why shoes tend to not really benefit us so much all the time. So, take the shoes off sometimes, especially when you're in your house. Be walking around barefoot as much as you can. And that's going to give that extra blood flow and connection with our feet to where we're going to be able to open and spread our toes and really squeeze and engage it. Because we have the bottom of our foot. These are muscles in the same way as our abs are. And to be able to crunch and squeeze real tight and to hold that stable is the same thing. And then the bottom of our feet, if we don't have nice, strong feet, that's what's making our feet cave in and they fold over. That gives us that plantar fasciitis and all those diagnoses that the doctors want to give us. But if we strengthen our feet and if we build a deeper connection with our feet so we can move our toes, we don't get these diagnoses.
So I know about tennis shoes with the thick soles. What about something as small as a flip-flop? I mean, just for foot protection, is that good enough?
I mean, so the way we like to think of it is the smaller, the more distance there is from the ground to your foot, the worse, right? So there's a lot of really good options. Like there's a shoe company called Vivo Barefoot. Have you ever heard of that, Edwin?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a pair.
Yeah. So Vivo Barefoots are probably the best shoes for that scenario. But just anything with a really thin, flat surface. And most shoes want to push our toes together. So you want a thin surface on the bottom of your feet, but you also want a wide toe spread so your toes can open up and breathe and not be pinched in as one.
Yeah, fair enough. And again, if you're just making a hard transition from tennis shoe to a barefoot shoe, it's a different way of pronating your foot during a run. You can't go heel strike run. You will be in pain very quickly, right?
Yeah. Well, definitely it's incremental. Like, if you've worn shoes for 40 years, you're not going to just throw the shoes off and have extremely weak feet and then go for a 5-mile run. Something's going to hurt. So it's in increments. Start by walking around in your house. But when you're running, here's a quick little tip off topic. You're not supposed to be heel striking and then going. Okay. When you're walking, because your heel can only take about the weight of what you are, right? But when you're running, it's sometimes double, triple the weight, if not more. So when you're walking, you heel strike. But when you're jogging, you actually want to land flat and then push off. And then when you're sprinting, you're landing like this and going fast. So walking is heel, boom. Okay. Jogging is flat, pushing. And then sprinting is just do.
All toes.
And yeah. And that's what you learn from being barefoot. And I learned a lot of that from a really smart guy named Tony Riddle. He's the natural lifestylist, and he talks a lot about barefoot running and shoes and just kind of rewilding our body and understanding why we're having so much of these pains because of our modern day civilization of shoes and chairs and computers.
So our friend Richard is saying the concept of grounding is really twofold. We need to care for our feet because they do contain muscles in them. We need to have them interact with the ground differently. But just the simple fact of being barefoot while meditating and touching the earth is groundedness, right? A centering process. I'm no scientist. We've known that before, but there's some literal scientific chemical reaction when our bare foot touches the earth, that something with that chemical reaction, it helps our body just align better, be more relaxed and in a better, more grounded state, as you would say. So it's so much more than just like a spiritual practice, but it actually comes into scientific about it's helping our body relax and ground and have better form and better posture. On top of that, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So if you wear shoes your whole life, you lose the ability and that foot strength because it's just not being worked. Yeah, and our friend Douglas is saying, there are shoe companies who make shoes to help us solve certain problems, like if we're pronating or not correctly. Shoes can be corrective devices as well as barefootedness can. So
but I think that's bullshit.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, because
I kind of believe
somebody I really
Douglas.
care about, in their 60s, they were spending a ridiculous amount of money on specifically designed shoes to help your feet. But if the shoes are doing the work, that means your foot is not doing the work, right? So if you're having shoes to push your stuff in the right spot, that means that your body is not learning how to do it, right? So like if you have that, that shoe that makes you forced to have that arch, it's weakening the ability to actually do the arch yourself. So you have to really be careful with the pills, as I like to say, because those shoes that are supposed to fix your issue can almost just be a pill, and it just fixes your symptoms, but doesn't really ever fix the root cause.
Okay. Douglas, I hope that answered some of your question. He sells running shoes and completely agrees on the fit of the shoe and the spreading of the toes, that the shoe fit is so critical to making sure you're not going to hurt the rest of your body.
Yeah,
So
100%, because you want the toe part of your shoe to be wider than the heel part of your shoe. And so many of the shoes that are designed today because of fashion, it's like the opposite. It has wide heels and then the toes narrow, and that is the complete opposite of how our feet are designed to use. We want a nice wide toe box and thin, like a thin padding, so our body can do what our bodies are designed to do.
we just need to pay attention more, and if the shoe fits, wear it.
It tends to always come back to that mindfulness, huh?
Yeah, it always does. So Will, you talked about some movements that can help us with all this. Take us through the movements that you would recommend to support what we just covered.
Yeah. Okay. And same thing, guys. Here, I'm gonna put my shirt on, so I'm not half naked the whole time. But it's the same thing, guys. If you do have a pen and a piece of paper, I highly recommend writing some stuff down. Just to get your mind to really understand the concept, because when we write it down, we just tend to understand a little bit more. So for the head posture, I actually already told you. It's just that mindfulness. It's the practice of being mindful, of knowing to keep our head up nice and tall and our chin back. And then to really help our shoulders, because our shoulders tend to get so tense and so tight because we're in this position, I have two helps for you guys. One is hanging. Hanging is one of the best things that we could be doing, because it's going to be stretching all of those muscles that get too tight from bad posture. Everything here gets too tight. And to find something to hang from is just going to let all of that relax. And, I like to hang every single day for 1 minute. And you can buy those rings to hang out on a tree, or those things that you put in between, like a doorway is absolutely perfect too. But I highly recommend every single person hanging for at least a minute every single day. And that's going to just decompress all of your joints and ligaments, from your wrists to your elbows to your shoulders, it's even going to help decompress your spine. Because so many of us, like I said before, we're like this. So when we're hanging, it's going to decompress everything and let that gravity pull down. So we're going to be able to get that extra blood and oxygen into those places that don't usually get it throughout the day. And then the other one is scapular depressions, right? So you can stretch all day, but if you don't strengthen the weak muscles, it's never really going to get better. So you want to strengthen the muscles that bring your shoulders down. And that's all a scapular depression is. I think I put my shirt on too early. But
yeah, I think you did too, because everybody left the webinar when you put it back on.
No,
but I think it's easier to see this,
yeah.
what that depression looks like.
So like a scapular depression is just anything where you're using and you're pressing that down. So you can do that on the ground, use a chair, use a stool, anything where you're pressing that down and using your muscles to bring those shoulders down is what's going to help open up that chest to get that better breathing, better posture, everything. And you don't even need to be pressing anything down, just by using your muscles, by pressing and bringing it down and getting that scoop and doing repetitions of about 20 is just going to help strengthen those muscles to keep our shoulders down. And our body has that tendency to flex your bicep, your tricep has to relax. To flex your tricep, your bicep has to relax. So our chest is too tight. To engage the muscles that bring it down, our chest and our neck have to relax. And that's what's going to help us rebalance and fix our posture. And then for our pelvis, and this is one of the most important ones, probably next to our feet, our middle stature and our infrastructure is probably the most important one, and that's pelvic tilts. This is something I highly recommend every day, is just learning how to move the pelvis back and forth. And it's so simple. You could just lay down here, okay? And you want your lower back to be able to touch the ground. A lot of us are here because we have that big arch and we have those tight shoulders, or we might be too far here. But like I said, if we go through the range of motion, our body does a much better job at staying in the right spot throughout the day. So pelvic tilts, you can just inhale, open, exhale, close. Inhale, open, exhale, close. And I recommend doing about 20 of those as soon as you wake up in the morning. And even the same thing, it's like the yoga position, the cat-cow, right? We all know this one where you open and close, open and close. Just putting our body through that range of motion is what's going to help it sit better in the right spot. As well as moving it back and forth, anterior and posterior, we want to be turning and spinning as much as we can. So every time that I'm sitting or every time that I'm in a still position for too long, I wake up, or I get up and I move my pelvis up in here and I move it from side to side, right? So every single time that we twist and turn, we're just getting that blood flow and that oxygen into the most vital places in our whole entire body. And it's like wringing out all of those internal organs that get stuck with all that stagnant blood and inflammation. So just to be able to turn, ooh, my whole back just cracked. That felt
I
good.
heard that. Jeez.
Just to be able to turn and take in nice breaths, it goes back to your breath through your stomach. You're able to wring out all of your internal organs, your intestines, your digestive system. That literally helps everything. And the next thing is connecting and strengthening your glutes. I promise you, if you have knee issues or if you have back issues, your glutes are not activating as much as they need to be.
So when you say activating, what does that feel like?
So for example, when you sit down on a chair, your glutes have to turn off. That means your butt cheeks have to turn off, right? Because everything else is getting tight and it's stiff. So your glutes and hamstrings are just turning off. And then when you stand up, then they have trouble waking back up. So by just doing exercise to strengthen the glutes, which I'm about to show you, is going to help turn those glutes on and being able to, when the glutes are turned on, that's what gives your back and the knees support, right? So many of us, our glutes are not activating throughout the day. So all of that extra weight gets compensated by our knees and by our back, right? So the first step that you can do, and this is going to be one that you're going to have a little bit trouble seeing, but being able to actually engage each butt cheek by themselves is super important. So you can lay on your back and put your hand under your butt and just practice trying to engage one glute at a time. And so many of us, if you haven't done this in the past, we don't know how to engage one glute at a time. And that means that we don't know how to turn it on. So that means every step that we're taking, every squat that we do, the glutes aren't turning on and all that extra pressure is getting put on our knees and back, and that's what causes the pain. So just first learning how to activate one glute at a time can be one of the best practices. And if you can't do this, I recommend doing it every day for the next 7 days until you can stand up and pop one glute at a time as if you were a well-paid stripper. Okay? And then the next thing you want to do is strengthen that glute. Again, you always want to connect and then you want to strengthen, right? That's the great thing about the pelvis too. You're connecting and strengthening. So the connecting with the glutes is the glute pops. And then to strengthening, the best thing that you could do is glute bridges. So you're laying down, you're finding that pelvis neutral. Oh, I'm just making sure you guys can see me well. So you're finding that pelvis neutral, okay? Driving that back into the ground, and then driving that up, and really focus on engaging your glutes like this. You can hold for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and then back down. Bring it up and back down. And that's going to quite literally strengthen the muscle that's going to relax the muscles that are too tight, because we're sitting like this all day. Those glutes are turned off. To do the opposite movement is going to bring us that balance. And the stronger that our glutes are, the stronger our knees and our back will be. Now, when I was going through my biggest pain through my knees, because my back and my ankles and my shoulders were just getting better while I was working it fully as a chain. But when I went to the top physical therapists and the top doctors and everybody who was really giving me information to help me fix my knee, it always came back to strengthening my glutes. Every single one of them. And all of my physical therapy work and all of the work I used from Move University was all about strengthening my glutes. And I was realizing throughout the day that the more I was engaging my glutes and the more I was strengthening my glutes, the less my knee was having to suffer. So glutes are very, very important. And then it comes to nice, strong feet. That's your base. This is maybe, if other than the pelvic tilts, this is probably the most important. We want to have nice, strong feet. But first, it comes to connection. One thing I recommend, this sounds kind of crazy, but we want to be able to separate our toes. So many of us, our feet are smashed in through just wearing shoes all day. So we want to be able to open our toes as much as we can, just naturally. And then if we have trouble, use our hands, okay? If you can't open up your toes by yourself, and I still do this today, every single night, 2 to 5 minutes, I put my fingers in between my toes just to open that up, get that blood flow, and to release that tension, right? Because throughout our day, everything pulls to our feet. All of our repetitive movements, all of our stress, gravity brings it down to our feet, and they get stiff and they get tight. So to be able to put our fingers between our toes every night will just help flush that out and let our blood, or let our heart, replace that blood with the fresh, good stuff instead of that stagnant inflammation stuff that gets pulled down there. So that's the connection part. And then you want to strengthen your feet. The two best ways that I've found and I've learned to strengthen your feet are balancing exercises, which is like this. And I like to do this every morning too. Can you see my feet, Edwin?
Yes, sir.
So just by balancing, right, you're having to activate all of your feet to hold yourself, okay? So you want to grip the ground with your feet and balance. And if you do that for a minute or two, and if you have weak feet, you're going to feel that burn in the same way as if you did 100 bicep curls, feeling your biceps burn, because you're going to be squeezing those muscles to keep yourself nice and balanced. So literally balancing exercises are one of the best things that we could do, because it helps balance out our whole body, because we have to relax the muscles that are too tight and pulling while strengthening other muscles that tend to turn off. And the next thing are toe curls. And these are probably the best ones to really, really strengthen. I'm going to use my shirt because it's the only thing I have right next to me, but a towel works too. Can you see that, Edwin?
Yes, sir.
Open, and then here, and curl it and squeeze it in. 3, 2, 1. Open, curl it. 3, 2, 1. Open, curl. 3, 2, 1. And I promise you, if you do a set of maybe 2 sets of 10 of that, your body will feel differently. Like, it's weird, because when your feet are engaged, all of a sudden your hips and your knees and your back just feel a little bit looser.
So Will, I just tried that while you were talking about that, and I got a foot cramp. Is that just a muscle that has not been used in a long time?
That's exactly what that is. And that's normal too. When I first started this, every time I squeezed my foot, I got a cramp.
Yeah.
And that's because lack of blood flow and weakness.
Okay.
Right? Like that is quite literally a sign that you need to do this more, Edwin.
Gee, thanks, Will.
No, it's not a thing to feel bad about, because almost everybody, because that's normal. Everybody's wearing shoes and we're sitting in chairs. So our feet are super, super weak. And that's why we have back problems and knee problems and shoulder problems and all of that. So if you do squeeze your feet real hard and if you start to cramp, that means that those muscles in your feet are not used to working like that.
Yeah.
Okay?
I've even seen some, I always do my work here at the computer, this is a stand-up desk that I'm at, and I'm usually either standing on one leg, and for the past 2 weeks, I've been barefooted. It's made all the difference in the world just to have my feet on a pad on the ground where I can squeeze and do different
Yeah.
things. It's been transformational.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Like one example is somebody I've been working with had gout, and if you don't know anything about gouts, I mean, like a lot of chronic illnesses or a diseases, it pulls down to the feet of, those crystals that are so painful where you cannot move your feet at all. And he wore those special shoes, with the huge padding to protect the feet that made him feel better in that moment. And as he was getting older, it was getting worse and worse. You would need more of the medication, more of the shoes to feel better. And we started doing the fingers between the toes. We started doing the balancing. Oh, he started doing the toe curls. And his feet are stronger than they've been in maybe 15 to 25 years. And where he can finally be able to start moving his toes. And now all of a sudden his gout affects him very minimal. Like, I think, he's been doing like the whole, pretty much the whole program, but for the first time in a long time, he's not even taking his gout medication. When before, as soon as he quit taking his gout, his feet would flare up and his feet would really start causing him some problems to where he wasn't even allowed to leave the house because his feet hurt so bad. So I had to take away all of the things that he was using to mask his symptoms and to start at the bottom and to start strengthening his feet and then to get the blood flow and to be able to get that movement back. Then all of a sudden he began to have that power within himself and to gain freedom back in his life. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's been one of the most beautiful things to experience, just to be able to watch him feel better than he's felt in 30 years because he's not on the gout medication. He's not on the blood pressure medication. He's not on the, the Benadryl at nighttime. He's not on all these pills that he needed just to maintain his system.
Sure. We've got some comments coming in. Our friend Richard is saying if he drops his car keys, he can pick them up with his feet. That's interesting that he says that. There are different stand-up pads for stand-up desks that have different things attached to them for you to exercise your feet while you're standing at your desk.
That's awesome. See, like I like to just dip it into my lifestyle, So sometimes if I got a shirt on the ground, a dirty shirt on the ground, I try to find excuses of when I could use my feet to pick it up and throw it up and catch it in my hand. Say if there's a light on that I need to turn off, I like to use my one foot to balance and then bring my other foot up and, and click it off. But
I thought you were about to say you change your light bulbs with your feet. I was going to call you on that. No, let us see that.
No. I turn the light off. All I got to do is flip the switch. But, just finding, and you could make it a game if you have kids, a wife or a husband or family, make it a game of, have a big cup or have a big bowl and then have a big pile of Legos and trying to, grab a Lego, put it in the cup, grab a Lego and put it in the cup. And that, I'm pretty sure I learned that exercise from Move University, but just anything like that where you're using your feet, you're connecting to your feet, you're strengthening your feet is going to give you that freedom and this whole new power within your foot to bleed into your whole entire system.
That's awesome. A couple of more comments. Our friend Douglas, who was the gentleman who fit people with shoes, he said he actually agrees with you, but the reality is that people are going to run in shoes. So he prefers Ultra, ALTRA shoes because there's a no difference heel to toe and they give lots of room for your toes. I've never heard of those. And our friend Ian is saying, and I just pulled them up, have you ever heard of Zero shoes? So they have a very small heel to toe difference. They're a good way to let your feet do the work while still having some protection.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely looks and sounds better. Like I said, if you got 2 inches of padding, it's not as good as 1 inch. If you got 1 inch of padding, it's not as good as half an inch.
Yeah.
So the less padding you got, the more feet that it's going to work. And you're right. People are not going to run barefooted, but I think you could. And there's a lot of people that do it. That guy, Tony Riddle, actually ran from the bottom of the UK to the top barefooted, and during the whole time he stopped and did interviews about how we can have more sustainable practices for the earth. It was really cool to see. And I've been practicing running barefoot as well. And it's a practice. And when you do that, you're really learning how to use your feet. And when you're not using it properly, your body is going to tell you, but the goal is just do it in increments. Use less and less and less so your body can do more and more and more. And the more that your body does, the more that your body will be able to do.
Oh, that's awesome. Not to change the subject, but I think this goes along with it. Our friend Richard is saying that all of these techniques and movement advice is so helpful that your enthusiasm is contagious. Clearly, you're passionate about this because of your personal experiences,
Yeah.
but why does this make you so happy? And what pursuits do you have in your life which provides you contentment and joy?
I mean, there was a time where I was in my worst place. Like I was a 24, 25-year-old professional athlete, and I was so low and so depressed and just struggling so bad mentally because my body was falling apart. I had all these pains in my knees, my back, and then I had a doctor tell me that I was never going to be able to walk or run again without pain. And that's when I made that decision to where I was going to devote however long it took to feel better myself. And then I began to learn that, the more I could help other people from what I learned, that the better I felt. And I'm excited and I'm enthusiastic because this stuff changed my life. Like, I was scared. I mean, I've never been so scared in my life driving home from that doctor and them saying that I wasn't going to be able to walk again without pain, where every step I took felt like I had a migraine and somebody was just punching me in the head. And I was afraid that I wasn't ever going to feel that in my shoulders and my back. And then now just to go from there to now I'm running barefoot. Now, I'm exercising. I'm being able to live the life that I want to live. And I just want to share that because I've learned that the more that I share this good feelings that I have with other people, it just multiplies the good feelings that I do have. And that's my whole purpose. And that's my intention, is to keep pushing myself to feel as best as I can. And then using that to multiply that by making other people get those same good feelings. And that's what gets me enthused. And that's what gets me excited. And, that's what makes me feel good. Everybody on this planet, we all want to feel love and value. Everybody. And the more value and the more help we bring to other people, the more love and valued we're going to feel, and that's what this is about. I'm excited to share this because it feels good. It feels good to help people. I promise. Try it.
Yeah. Well, Douglas is just acknowledging that he appreciates the information.
Thank you,
and that
Douglas.
you really know what you're doing. And I think I think people have two choices in life, Will. They can either wait for an opportunity to come in front of them that doesn't disrupt their comfort zone too much, and they feel confident enough to try, or they take massive action in order to create momentum towards success and control that narrative rather than wait on it. Clearly, you went on that path.
Yeah, well, I mean, before we take massive action, we have to take massive responsibility, and that's the first step, is to understand the way we feel today is all determining on what we're doing, of how we're living, how we're thinking, and how we're moving. So we have to take responsibility in how we feel, because it's not the doctor's fault. It's not our parents' fault. It's, you could blame it on the society because it's not, really creating an environment to teach this stuff. You could blame it on the schools. But at the end of the day, if we don't take responsibility of like, look, this is how I feel. And if I want to feel better, I got to understand that I feel this way because of something that I'm doing. And then that's what's going to encourage that massive action of change.
Wow. So I think a lot of people look to people like you in order to find out the answers for success.
Yeah. And I was the same way, though. It's because I had to take that massive responsibility when I was in the pain, right? Because at first I wanted to blame the doctors for all my knee surgeries. At first I wanted to blame my parents for not being there. I wanted to blame this. I wanted to blame that for why my body was falling apart. But until I just said, look, this is my situation. This is how I feel. And if I want to feel like better, I have to change something.
And you have to do something. You have to take action.
Yeah. And like, I have to first just listen to understand what this pain is trying to tell me. And that's what started that process of really, really finding progress and getting better.
Well, I think what's interesting here, Will, and I posted it on my Instagram story earlier this week. I put two exact same boxes on the screen. And
Hmm.
I asked the audience, I said, which one is truth? And you had two choices. Both of them were green. Both of them were perfectly the same. So you had to pick one as truth. Well, then I asked the question, what's the other box? Well, that one's belief. So the question then, Will, is that if we are imperfect humans, each with different beliefs because of our different experiences, truth can't reside within us. We always have to be looking for it outside.
Yeah,
That's
100%.
where the magic of success, change, and transformation occur, is on a journey to seek truth,
Yeah.
because your belief isn't going to get you there. It either is or it isn't. A good belief
Yeah.
versus a bad belief. And we can spend a lot of time talking about that. But my beliefs are different than yours because our experiences are different,
Yeah,
but we
for
can
sure.
both be seeking the truth side by side.
Exactly. And that's what I did was I started studying who was the smartest people I could find on movement, right? And I'll give you guys three people that I was learning from during these times. One is Ido Portal, right? If Wim Hof was the guy on breath and ice, Ido Portal is the guy on movement. Nobody understands movement out of anyone I've ever seen more than this guy, Ido Portal from Israel. Have you ever heard of him?
I have not. Now I'm
This
curious.
is the
Spell
first.
his
This
name.
is the first person you have not heard of.
Nope.
Hey, and it's because he's not big on social media. He's not big on anything like that. But he is one of the smartest people. Ido Portal. Ido Portal. He actually, Conor McGregor hired him to train him in movement before that big Jose Aldo fight that he won in like 6 seconds. Right?
Okay.
Like, but Ido Portal was one. Move University was two, and Tony Riddle was three. Those are three people that I just started studying movement because they seem to understand movement deeper than anybody else that I could find.
See, that's interesting. The truth was outside of you. You had to go seek it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but I think it's a mixture. Like you have to see other people's perspective to get a clear idea of your perspective, really.
yeah, that's beautiful. Questions from Richard. What self-development books are you currently reading?
Ooh.
You've
I
got a good
actually,
bookshelf.
huh?
You've got a good bookshelf.
Yeah.
Bookshelf.
I actually just finished probably one of my favorite books I've ever read called The Wealthy Gardener, which is really, really awesome. It's a really awesome story. And I actually just picked up a new book that I started reading called 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. And it's really interesting. Have you ever heard of it?
No, that's two
I'm,
things I haven't heard of. Gee, Will, you're
yeah,
making me look bad.
I'm only on chapter 2, but it's the same guy who wrote the book Sapiens.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, so he just came out with a new book maybe last year or this year called 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, and it's really interesting. And that's what I'm currently reading. But there's so many books that I've used for my own, like, just self development. Like, ever since I really picked up the practice of meditation, I've really fallen in love with the practice of reading as well. So, I mean, there's tons of different books from The Art of Learning to Mindfulness in Plain English, How to Win Friends and Influence People, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Um, and I know your mentor is the king of writing all the books. I can't remember his name, but he's the king of leadership. Who is he?
John Maxwell.
Yeah, John Maxwell. I know he's come out with what, like 100 of the top books?
Oh my gosh, he's been a number one bestseller for 40 years. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
hundreds of good books. So yeah, I have put that Ido Portal in the comments for everybody. Thanks, Douglas, for looking that up for me. He saved me a step.
Yeah. Yeah. Ido Portal is next level when it comes to understanding movement. 100%.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Dale Carnegie. Yeah, thanks, Richard. Carnegie's a wonderful one. If you want to read,
Stephen Covey.
yeah, Think and Grow Rich, As a Man
Oh, yeah.
Thinketh, all kinds of good stuff.
Everything. And it's funny, like Think and Grow Rich was such a good book about so much more than just getting rich. The biggest thing that I got from that book is if I wanted a positive life, I had to have positive thoughts and positive habits. And that's when, and that book is one of the first really self-help books that started changing my life because I wanted a positive life. And from that book, I understood if I did want that, I had to change my habits and I had to change my habits of thought. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's another good one.
So, Will, you've worked with a lot of people in your past to help them become better movers, in order to grow muscle, lose weight, etc. What was the number one thing people had to overcome in order to find momentum to get to their goal? What were the biggest three barriers that you ran into?
I mean, one is just mindset, like willing to change, like that's the hardest thing is because if you want something different, something needs to change, and so many of us fight change, but we have to realize that if we just stop and realize everything in the universe and in the world is always changing, and we have to be able to embrace change and growth every single day. And I think that was one of the biggest barriers, 100%, and so one is the being able to embrace change, which kind of goes into number two, and that's that comfort zone. And you know all about that. Being able to disrupt comfort, all progress and all growth and all understanding and learning is just outside that comfort circle, right? Right. So if this is your comfort zone, where you're on the couch, you're on the TV, everything's easy, you're around your friends, you're around your family, everything good that you can accomplish is just pushing yourself just outside that comfort zone to be able to disrupt comfort. And that's what forces your mind and forces your body to think about things differently and to change, is being able to disrupt comfort. And number three is just consistency. Like, you have, like, it's so easy to do things when you're motivated, but when that motivation fades, then how are you going to keep on it? And that's just being able to step back and to continually, daily, if it's needed, to connect to why you're trying to do this, why you're trying to accomplish that goal. If it's, if it's for your friends, for your family, for your kids, if it's to get a red Lamborghini, whatever it is, just connect to your purpose. And then that's going to keep you consistent and motivated over the long run.
Yeah, fascinating. Just before we got on this webinar, I was finishing up an interview with Dr. Ryan Livingston. He's the
But the
Pittsburgh
spine doctor,
the spine doctor. That's right. And he was talking about the difference between being inconvenienced versus getting uncomfortable, and that we can be inconvenienced a lot, and it's not as big a motivator as being uncomfortable. So we need to seek a disruption of our comfort
yeah.
zone in order to have the best chances for long-term success.
Yeah, and that was one of the biggest lessons that I've learned throughout my life is everything I want is right on the other side of what's uncomfortable. So if you run from discomfort, you're going to be running from your potential.
There you
All
go.
your potential is finding what makes you uncomfortable. And one thing that I've learned is, even if it's just a conversation, if I'm meeting somebody or talking to somebody, and if they say something that makes me uncomfortable or makes me upset, they just rubbed against something inside of me that's a weakness, that I have to begin to stop and just listen and to begin to understand why that's happening. And following that path of what makes me uncomfortable is that path of success.
Amazing. So, Will, I know you are an advocate for real change and long-term success, and that you kind of have some strategic thinking around what sets people up for that. Can you give us your top tips for long-term success?
Yeah, I mean, one is like if you want real change in your life, you have to adjust your lifestyle, right? And especially when it comes to movement and it comes to posture. The first thing that you could do that just helps change on a consistent for a long-term success is moment to moment mindfulness. And being able to stop and meditate is being able to strengthen the part in your brain to be able to be mindful. And to be mindful of how you're currently holding your posture and being mindful of those 6 posture checkpoints constantly throughout the day is one of the best things that you can do. So when you're driving, when you're talking to your kids, when you're at work, when you're brushing your teeth, when you're washing the dishes, just being mindful of those 6 posture checkpoints from moment to moment will make the biggest impact. You can't just leave all of these things to your 30 minutes to hour a day during your workout. Right? And when you're working out, if you're listening to a podcast and listening to music, that's a percentage of your attention that's being brought away from your awareness of your mindfulness of the right now. So it helps so much, and no matter what you're doing, just to be aware and be mindful of those 6 posture checkpoints. And number 2 that has really helped me, one of the biggest impacts, is a morning activation and a nighttime release. So for example, when I was working through all of these pains, I had steps, like I had a process that I had to reverse, right? Because so many of us have been having bad posture for 10, 20, 30 years. And it's not going to just fix overnight by understanding these 6 posture checkpoints. We actually have to work and to chip away and to reverse that process of bad posture. And so that's why I like to have a morning activation, right? So just spend 10 to 20 to 30 minutes activating some sort of movement and blood flow. So for example, if you know that your hips are tight throughout the day, when you first wake up, you want to have that morning movement of getting down into that squat sit, opening up those hips, engaging those glutes, doing some, cat cows, doing some pelvic tilts, doing some glute bridges, something that's going to activate your body throughout the day. That's going to have you a little bit step closer towards that better posture. And then you want that nighttime release, because we all have those repetitive movements throughout the day, no matter what job or lifestyle you have. We have those repetitive movements. If you're on the computer, those tensions build up. Like even if it's just emotional, if you're stressing, you get stressed throughout the shoulders. So I like to spend 30 minutes at night on the ground, breathing and just stretching the, like the tight tension points that come up. And for example, and it's going to be different for everybody. But I mean, if you sit throughout the day, your hips are going to be tight, your back is going to be tight, your shoulders are going to be tight. So just to get on the ground and to breathe and to stretch and to relax what is tight is going to help you sleep better and wake up the next morning fresher, lighter, a little bit better than you were the day before. And then the third one is my favorite, that has been one of my biggest lifestyle changes that my friends still think I'm crazy because it's not normal. And that is just less time on the couch and in a chair and more time on the ground. All of these imbalances usually are stemming from too much time sitting, 100%. As babies, if any of us have kids in this interactment, we know that they're born moving perfectly. They can perfectly sit into that squat sit. They can perfectly move. They perfectly breathe. They perfectly sleep. And what tends to ruin that throughout the day is sitting in chairs. When we're sitting in couches, our core disengages, our glutes disengage, and our shoulders get tight, our hips get tight. And then when we do move, it's chipping away and moving bad. So every single time I find myself sitting on a chair or sitting on a couch, I ask myself, could I sit on the ground right now, or is it too weird? So like I understand if you're at a wedding, you don't want to take the attention away from the thing by sitting on the ground looking weird, right?
But you could.
I mean, you could, but I mean, let them have their moment,
Sure.
But if you're sitting in your house at nighttime watching TV, instead of sitting on the couch, get on the ground, breathe into the ground, spend time with your family on the ground, because when you're on the ground, that's when your hips can relax. That's when your core can, be what it's meant to be. That's when you're closer to your feet. Your heart can pump better blood flow through everything. And that's what's going to give you that real long-term success. And that's one thing that I learned when I was struggling through all those pain, because I noticed, like, in the days that I was having the most knee pain was the days that I was sitting on couches the most. And the days that I was feeling the best were the days that I was on the ground the most. Because when I was on the ground, those tight muscles were being relaxed. When I was on the ground, my body could really recover. My body could really regenerate. Get on the ground, and if the ground is hard, it's honest. It's going to tell you exactly what's tight.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then the last one is just move. The more you move, the better you're going to feel. Right? So if that's yoga, if that's workouts, if that's just getting outside and riding your bike and going for walks and just getting outside, going for hikes, the more you move, the longer you're going to be able to move. Just make sure you're mindful of your posture, because that's everything.
Love it, Will. Will, I don't see any questions in the queue. Let's get some excitement over here over your giveaway. How do you want to approach this amazing gift moving forward?
So for those of you guys who know, I have my staple course. my Happy, Healthy, Strong in 6 weeks, where I put all my best routines, my best habits, my best workouts, all into this 6-week happier, healthier course. At the beginning, it's going to take you to where you don't know what to do. You have weak and disconnected feet, bad core, bad posture. And throughout this course, you're learning all these different movements like the hangs and the squat sits and the fingers are between the toes. And I want to give away this course to one person for free. And I'm thinking the best way to do it is a challenge, kind of like how we did. He gave away the course to somebody last time who did the breathing every day for 7 days. I want to see something every single day from you guys doing some sort of movement mastery. Okay. So if that's, a morning activation, if that's a nighttime release, if that's just practicing your posture checkpoints, if that's practicing your hanging, your pelvic tilts, I want something every single day. I want you to post it on Instagram, and I want you to tag me on your story of you just doing that movement mastery every single day. And then I'm going to pick a person who I feel like is putting in the best effort, that is doing their best to find their progress and to find their potential. And I'm going to give my course for completely free, and it's going for about $250 now. So it's completely free. And yeah, I'm excited about that. That's cool.
That's amazing. So do you want to open that up maybe for people who are going to watch this replay on YouTube too? Let's even enrich it even more, or
yeah. For those who are watching it on YouTube, same thing. If I see you tagging me on this every single day, 7 to 10 days, every day, practicing that movement mastery and tagging me in that, you're going to get a free course.
All right. So the people who showed up live, though, these are the real winners here.
Yeah.
They're going to get twice the chances to win.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So that means y'all got to post up twice as often. All right.
Yes.
So here we go. We're going to be watching to see who you are. We know who showed up. So Will, we're going to get back together here in maybe a couple of weeks. What do you want to talk about next?
I mean, I'd love to do next Saturday. What are you doing next Saturday?
Let's see. Let's do next
Saturday.
I have to check with my wife on that. Will?
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do it next Saturday. Yeah. Why not? Okay.
Okay. And then I want to announce the topic on Tuesday, right? So, and the way we're going to figure out the topic is go to chatwithwillgrant.com and put in your suggestion. Is there still that place there to do that, Edwin?
Yeah. So if they scroll down to the bottom of the chatwithwillgrant.com page, you can tell us kind of what you want to hear more about.
Yeah. We want to hear, like, is it breath? Is it movement? Is it nutrition? Is it growing food? Is it growing garden? Is it building soil? I want to hear from you guys what you guys want to hear. And yeah, just put your suggestions in chatwithwillgrant.com, because, I could come up with a million different topics, but I'd rather talk about the stuff they want to hear.
Yeah. Richard's already posting up permaculture, your yard.
All right. That'd be cool. Yeah. I would love to do that. Really.
Oh, wonderful. Well, cool. Well, thanks everybody for showing up today. I really appreciate it. They've stayed engaged the whole time, Will. 22 questions were asked. So that's incredible.
Awesome. Is there any more questions? Because I'd love to spend a little bit more time to answer it. If you guys have any more questions about anything, this is your time. I'm more than happy to help and answer the best of my ability.
Yeah. Any questions going once? Any questions going twice?
All right.
Will, I don't see any more questions. We're just going to have to get back together next Saturday. Chatwithwillgrant.com. I will have that up probably tomorrow, the new registration portal with the new date and time.
But it is available right now for their suggestions, right?
For their suggestions, it is. Yeah, to register for the next webinar, that won't be up until tomorrow.
Okay, cool. And I like the idea about, maybe some permaculture and growing your own food, but I want to hear what you guys want. So go to chatwithwillgrant.com and not only reserve your spot for next week, but let's see what you guys want to hear. So here's my buddy Dutch. She wants to say hello too.
Oh, I saw her sneak in the frame. Richard saying mahalo. Good to see you, Richard. Thanks for being back here. All right, Will. Good to see you, my friend. Until next time.
Thanks so much, everybody.